Sierra Leone, like many other countries in West Africa, enjoy fragile peace, which for the most part has been solidified by toxic political and tribal sentiment and the use of abuse of drugs. On the 4th April this year, the country's president declared a state of emergency on drug abuse in response to the escalating crisis caused by the synthetic drug Kush, which has been ravaging the country's youth and communities. 3 months down the line, on the 12th July 2024, the state's Ministry of Information and Civic Education issued a presser which stated that in early March 2023, intelligence officials in Sierra Leone uncovered a plot involving individuals suspected of importing bomb-making materials into Sierra Leone. A special operation was launched to identify and disrupt their activities. After months of surveillance, a joint operation by intelligence, military and police forces was carried on Sunday, July 7th, 2024, targeting several locations in and around the western area, resulting into what the ministry has termed a success, resulting in the seizure of various bomb-making materials. The presser further stated that on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, a further search at the residence of suspect Hussein Anta, whose identity has sparked some controversy, led to the discovery of 7 million Captagon pillars. Captagon is known to be widely used by ISIS and fighters in Syria. To discuss this and several other issues bordering on security fragility, we have been joined in the studios, of course, as I informed you earlier on, by, of course, Minister Chernor, who is the Minister of Information and Civic Education. This time I got it right, Fabian. Good morning, Siba. It's a pleasure having you in the studios. So
always great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me. And our apology that we kept you waiting.
Sure.
Accepted. Thank you.
Sure. I think expect otherwise is time conscious.
Yes.
But again, we're also expecting to be joined in the studios by Abdul Karim Will, who is the Communications Director for the Office of National Security, ONS. But again, Siba, once again, welcome.
Thank you, my brother.
Just enable the public with an eye-opener on the issues we've just mentioned.
It's simple. I think this is really a day to celebrate our intelligence and security forces. Since last year, March 2023, as you mentioned, they got intelligence reports that some individuals, probably connected to foreign terrorist organizations, it's important for me to make that additional point, were involved in the importation of bomb-making materials into our country. We did not know at the time the extent of this. We did not understand fully whether this was meant for bombs that will be used in our country or this was a transit point. What's important is the security apparatus decided to place surveillance and proper security work because this operation was complex. They were bringing these materials. They were camouflaging these materials, keeping them in soap, laundry, building material products, distributing them across multiple sites in and around our country. I think the raids were conducted on up to 7 locations, but the security apparatus were on top of each and every one of those locations. They managed to conduct this activity without the individuals concerned knowing that they were being surveilled, not knowing that we were fully on top of the situation. Now, to tell you something, once the security apparatus realized that these individuals were now in a position where it was probable that they could take action, including they had started assembling at least 1 or 2 of those bomb materials to make some demonstrative bombs, our security apparatus decided to conduct these very successful raids. They involved the military, the police, the intelligence officers. They conducted these raids, again, without any casualties, without raising any alarms in terms of individual lives in communities, because some of these people, these activities were conducted in areas that are pretty popular. So again, I think today when I'm on these shows, it's not often we come on air to say our state works. We have competent intelligence and security apparatus. In this case, they have done their job. They disrupted this network. They have arrested the key individuals. Obviously, the investigations continue. So these individuals are going to help us to see what's the extent of the network, to understand the motive behind this, to understand whether these were meant to be used in Sierra Leone or in transit. But I can tell you, considering this, the quantum of materials we're talking about here, we very much doubt whether Sierra Leone was the ultimate destination for this. It's definitely cannot be the singular destination, because we're talking about here up to 4 or 5 containers of materials that were shipped over a period of time. We've been able to track each and every one of those containers. We have reasonable confidence that we have in our possession, in this possession of the state, majority of these materials. And as you saw in the press release, the follow-ups also discovered that it was not just these bomb-making materials, it was also illicit drugs, these amphetamine stimulants that are used by ISIS fighters and other fighters in the Middle East, suggests to us again that this has connection to some of these entities in that part of the world. But all of these are preliminaries. What we can say today is the people of Sierra Leone can sleep easy knowing that they have a competent state security apparatus that have done their job.
Siba, even as we commend our intelligence officers on what they've unraveled, because as you rightly mentioned, on that press that we saw, it's quite huge. But again, where does this one place us in terms of fragility of our border entry points?
No, I think what it shows is that we have a system that works. It shows that, look, there will always be people with bad intent. Right. What makes society function is that those of us with good intent are more than them, and that the state is on top of them. We're competent enough to be able to track them, to stop them from causing havoc. I think this enhances our international respect. Our international partners know that, oh, there's a competent state. They could find these materials. They could track it. We didn't just rush and arrest them. We tracked them. We understand the patterns that they were operating under. We were on them for over a year. Sure. And then when it was the right time, the zoning on them. I think our international partners, look, we live in a fragile neighborhood. This is just a fact, right? Our West African neighborhood is fragile. There's terrorism happening just across our borders. We're not far from the Sahel. We've been in the past targeted as a transit point. This is the reality of our neighborhood. What Sierra Leone has shown is that we don't have an appetite for these kinds of things. And it's not just the states, it's individuals. Because if we receive intelligence reports, it tells you ordinary Sierra Leone and said, let's see what happens, so no like. And they started giving tips, and they cooperated. And the security apparatus were able to work, because the state cannot function on its own. But what I think we have shown is that Sierra Leone does not have an appetite for these kinds of things. And if anybody tries it, even if you don't know, the state is looking at you, sure, and we can track you, we will find you, we'll stop you, and the law will hold you accountable. That's the important thing.
Fighting terrorism has been a global challenge. Well, perhaps not for a country like Sierra Leone, because at that level of ISIS and Boko Haram, it's nothing Sierra Leone deals with. But apprehending the suspect now and the materials that were collected from them does help other countries who have been struggling to get them, particularly even the United States of America. Where does this put Sierra Leone's position with such countries? What value does it add to us?
That's an excellent question. No one country can fight terrorism. As we know, terrorism is often a transnational affair. And what this shows is that our international partners, including the United States, can rely on us as a country that has the capacity to track and disrupt networks. We don't know yet what the extent of these targets were. We don't know whether they were planning to target institutions or people in Sierra Leone, or whether they were planning on transiting these items to other places in and around West Africa. But what we know is that the state has the capacity to track, disrupt, and apprehend these individuals, that our international partners can rely on us, that they know that we have a competent intelligence system that's capable to conduct a long-term surveillance. So I think all of this enhances our reputation. This is what His Excellency President Bio has really sought to do, was to increase the capacity and the respect of our intelligence forces as reliable partners that, whether it's Western or our African partners can say, you know what, we can share information with these guys. They are professional enough. That information is not going to leak. Keep in mind, a 1-year investigation in this country, we're all man quick for go social media and go write nonsense, it shows that this has been done in a very competent and professional manner. So I think it enhances our respect.
At this stage of the investigation, is it going to only comprise of the Sierra Leonean side to further the investigation, or have you opened the net to collaborate with other countries that have been tracking some of these activities?
We're part of Interpol. We're an active participant in Interpol, and we have relationships with a lot of other international partners. Obviously, when they've seen what we've done here and the success of this operation, other partners will contact the government of Sierra Leone. We're an international player. We sit on the Security Council. We're going to be present with the Security Council. We're important in these international conversations, and so we expect that our partners will come to us. What we are saying here is they know they have a competent partner on this other side, and once they come to us, whether it's to share information, whether it's for us to collaborate on tracking the other individuals that are connected, let me make something clear. One strong possibility is that these individuals are connected to forces outside of Sierra Leone. There's no way you can garner $95 million worth of drugs in this country. I don't think there's a market for that. I don't think the people of Sierra Leone have that resources right now in their pocket that, they will bring those drugs here. So it must be connected to some place not here, right? You think about as I said, 4 or 5 containers of bomb-making materials. It's a very strong possibility that those bombs were not meant for our country. It's a possibility. We're looking at all options. And as I've said, some of those individuals have in the past been suspected of connection to foreign terrorist-related individuals. So all of these are now being tracked. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves in terms of what the investigations are. But in doing that, in tracking that, we're open to collaborating with all our partners and including other states, right? Because again, we are going to track where all of these containers came through, the different ports that they went through, what happened here at our port itself, and all of those things. I should also make something clear. These drugs will be destroyed in a public ceremony this week, not later than Wednesday. We'll announce that. We'll invite everybody to come, the press, you guys to come out and see. His Excellency gave a very clear and unequivocal instruction that we want to see a public destruction of these drugs. The bombs that they had set up, because they have put at least 2 of these bombs together, they will also be detonated in a controlled activity that we have asked for us to be allowed to bring in the 4th estate to see that as well. Again, to continue to enhance the confidence of the public, to see the transparency, to see that we are not in the drug business. We don't want to have anything to do with that business. And if we catch you, you will face the law and you will lose all of the value of what you have.
Intelligence is a very expensive commodity itself, and across the world, even within countries, one institution to another, they use intel as a bargaining chip. We find ourselves as a nation in a way where other countries utilize Interpol. They extract suspects and criminals from our country all the time, but we as a nation struggle to extract ours from other countries. Are we using this as a bargaining chip?
Well, I'm not going to again be sitting here saying, giving everything that we have as a state, but I want to point out that in the last treason trial, we were able to bring back, extradite suspects from Liberia. We've been able to extradite suspects currently, recently, as you saw, from Guinea, many of them. So we are an international player. President Bio has really helped to enhance our international standing. And as I said, the success of this, the scale
But that's
of
mostly within Africa. When we cross the continent, the picture doesn't seem the same.
No, well, I mean, I think there are different laws.
Extradition out of Africa
there are different laws that
seems impossible.
regulate these kinds of extraditions, and you got to start somewhere. I think once we continue to do the work that we're doing, and we show that we're a competent, reliable player, that we follow the law, because it's also important that if you extradite somebody and bring them into your country, the country that is repatriating this individual wants an assurance that the person is not going to be subject to torture, that the rule of law operates, and those are the things that President Bio has put a premium on, and that's why you're seeing that our reputation is increasing among our peers, and that they are trusting Sierra Leone as a country that they can work with.
From the release, the ringleaders of this trade are people whom we all know as businessmen that are operating in Sierra Leone. Are we seeing a situation where in the country will then heighten surveillance on most of those who were the hearts of them being business people,
no,
or then playing games around?
No, we're very careful to not make broad brushing accusations against whole communities of people. We have amongst ourselves huge communities of people who are doing respectful businesses here, who have been members of our community for years, who are paying their taxes and doing their dues and are part of the Sierra Leonean community. So it's important, and this is why you can see the release was carefully worded. It was not naming whole communities of people who avoided creating insinuations about people. At this stage, the investigation targets individuals for whom we have evidence that they are connected. What I can assure you is that the state will leave no stone unturned. There are no sacred cows. If the person is from what nationality, what ethnicity, the state is going to go after them and will be rigorous, will be vigorous, and will bring them to book. Nobody is spared. But at the same time, nobody is targeted just because of their identity, because of their name, or what community that they belong to. We say Salon Big Pass we all, and Salon above all else. We're going to continue with that. That's the vision that His Excellency has set, and that's something we'll continue to abide by.
We're in the states we are in, we're still battling with the fight against Kush, which is ravaging the lives of many others. The other day I heard you saying, I think every home in this country has been affected. It could be you, it could be a relative, or it could be a brother of a friend or whatsoever.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a situation where in a drug that is being used by, we know what's happening in those parts of the world. Devastating things are happening there. One would be thinking of the impact this drug will have in an individual, how it will make you think also to speak. It seems worrying, Siba.
It is a sobering situation, but I think there's a lot of positives here you can look at. One is that since His Excellency declared the state of emergency against Kush, I think any objective person who's been paying attention knows that we have been able to target, disrupt the Kush network. We have been able to get so many of our Sierra Leonean young people into rehabilitation centers that are working, led by my colleague in the Ministry of Social Welfare. The Ministry of Health has done some fantastic work. The National Public Health Agency has done some really good work. We've set up rehabilitation centers. The goal was to do that in every single district. My ministry has led in a public education campaign. Almost every Sierra Leonean you meet, irrespective of where you meet them, they have heard about Kush. They know that it's dangerous. They know what they're doing. So we've done that. And as you've seen also in terms of the reporting, even on social media, it's no longer, you no longer have open community sites where everybody knows this is where it's happening. It's not because the state has done all the work. It's because Sierra Leonean citizens have done the work. The other good news is that if somebody had 7 million pills, 7 million, kept in their house, in refrigerators, hidden in air conditioners, just one packet of those 7 million pills, as you said, is dangerous. This is terrible drugs. But the good news is these drugs, we currently know that they are not, there's no evidence that they are currently flawed in our markets. They are not cheap. One pill costs about $12. Apparently in Saudi Arabia, it costs about $25. So the cost of this goes up. And the value of giving is the value in the Sierra Leonean market if you sell it at $12 each. So it could go in the hundreds of millions if this was supposed to be exported. But we've tracked it. We've stopped it. We've been able to collect all of it, and we're going to publicly destroy it. So it shows you that, again, bad people will think and imagine bad things, and they will seek to destroy us. What is required is that for us who are good people, you and I, good citizens around, we're able to respond, preempt, disrupt, and destroy their plans. And what we're seeing increasingly is that the state has the capacity to do that, and that's what we're doing.
One of the key things that perhaps this would speak to is how, as a nation, we've not been very proactive. I wish Will from ONS was here at this moment. We've not been very proactive in investigating through unexplained wealth. That is one pattern across the world that is a red flag to crime, unexplained wealth. And some of these issues, you see the people, they're living a lifestyle, and the businesses they run or the income they're officially generating does not equate to the lifestyle they're living, the assets they're able to buy. But it seems as a nation, we just sit back. And the only people we seem to be going after are public officials, when they're not the only people who should be looked into for unexplained wealth. A whole world of crime.
What I can say to you is that this investigation has been complex, and it includes what you're pointing out now, which is if you're doing a certain business, but we now see your finances are different from the kind of business you're doing, the state will put their eyes on you, and the intelligence forces are paying attention to these things increasingly. You're right. In the past, it doesn't seem like this is the kind of thing that has attracted the kind of scrutiny that's required. But I can assure you that this is changing significantly. With this, obviously the Anti-Corruption Commission also has a mandate to investigate, especially for public officials. But we have a financial intelligence unit that is staffed,
which does not seem to be doing a lot of work,
because
even
in the background,
even in the aspect, Siba, of Kush that you referenced earlier, even in the aspect of Kush, a lot of the individuals who have been accused by maybe some of our bloggers, what you can really see is, I cannot tell you that I am a cookery seller with maybe my market of just Fritonians, and then I'm making 1 billion leones a week. The mathematics is not adding up. But it seems our financial intelligence unit is just...
No, what you have to...
The evidence of what they've been able to produce is what we use to measure their progress.
I love that you mention bloggers. It's really important, and you're a journalist of the highest standing. It's really important to separate speculation, gossip, and unfounded accusation.
But there's also what we call source of information.
Let me finish.
It's not wrong to go off on them and look into them.
That's what
prove
I'm saying.
The wrongs to be wrong, and prove the serious allegations to be serious things.
It's true, but I think it's important that we separate, especially for you have been a subject of a lot of gossip, some terrible ones. It's not the business of the state to say every single mud that people throw at Fabian, we're going to now put the finite resources we have to investigate you. It's important to separate that from, for example, when you, as a competent investigative journalist, goes about and studies something and say, look, we have seen enough here that we hand over or do a report that the state then takes on. If we decide that every time one blogger says, look, Siba, the most carry Siba, the guy, not so that money there, Siba gets. If we decide that the state will now follow and investigate every single one of them, they will not be able to do this fantastic job that they have just done. So I think it's important to separate those two things. I'm not disagreeing with you.
The lifestyle in itself.
That some of what we see from these
even
bloggers,
minus the bloggers, the lifestyle itself of certain individuals, bringing us back to unexplained wealth, is something that should be looked into. But again, you would say, with all the 8.6 million people in Sierra Leone, maybe FIU would not be able to look into everyone. But some of these things are tip-offs. If Fabian Swill comes up, and then Fabian Swill is probably earning 1 million leone salary, and Fabian Swill is living a 10 million leone lifestyle a month, yes, it's called for investigation.
Yes, but if the tip-off has to be credible, and it cannot be based on just conjecture.
So if you don't look into it, how would you know?
No, but again,
that's what an investigation is for, proving right or wrong.
I understand. I just want you to let me land on this point, because I think it's important for people to understand.
Go ahead.
The states cannot be in the business of blogger X. Just don't say, here, do we see bag money, eh? Then all of a sudden they put state resources to go after Siba. There's a way they conduct these investigations. FIU is very competent. They look at money flows. They track, okay, what comes into Siba's accounts. They track that with what my salary is and what other means of income I have. For public officials, it's simple. We have to declare, so the ACC should be able to track that. For FIU, that's why it's called intelligence work. It's intelligence. These reports that we have just put out, the release, pointing out this work, it includes FIU. It includes a whole range of security, of intelligence and security apparatus. So they don't work in isolation. And you're right, even on this issue of the kush and drugs, why do you think we've been able to disrupt your network? You're right, maybe sometimes we need to be much more proactive, but also with intelligence, the thing that they cannot do is what a blogger can do. They can't just jump out there and, it takes time. You mentioned that intelligence is expensive. It takes time. And to build a credible case that can gain conviction in a court of law, you need to be deliberate, you need to take your time, you need to spend years. Sometimes you even see the act and you wait. Because if you rush in, the evidence will be hidden. So I can assure you that these people might be gallivanting, thinking that we don't know them or that we can't catch them. No, the state is waiting, is gathering evidence, and at the right time, they will pounce, just as we have done in this case.
Siba, currently we know 7 are currently under police custody in regards to the issue under discussion. Have we had other names coming up?
Well, I mean, as I said, the investigations are ongoing. This is an active investigation. So there's a potentially a wider net that the police is going to cast. We want to see who these people are. This is why we release their names, and I've asked for people to come forward and say, if you know anything about these individuals, if you have suspected anything, if you know of their acquaintances, the business associates, people that are connected, contact the Sierra Leone police. The investigations, you know, the thing we've always said here when I've come public on these security issues is that, you know, nobody's targeted and nobody's spared, which means we just follow the fact. And the state is going to keep following this fact. We're confident that the major players are in custody. We're confident that we've disrupted their plans. We're confident that no matter where this leads, the state is going to reach them and they'll be brought to book.
Well, we've got a few minutes, so we're going to try to round off this segment of the conversation, and we would try to chip in a couple of the messages on our Facebook page. The first one I'd read is from Usman Kavoni. He says, we need hearsay and circumstantial evidence to lead to physical evidence to investigate matters, so bloggers can give gist which could lead us to an investigation.
Usman Prince Suleiman Kavoni says, Siba, in the United States, you get investigated for certain amount of money deposited into the bank without any trace of income from jobs.
Hussein Hassan is asking, Mr. Minister, what is your assurance for these people to face the full penalty of the law?
Abbas Habib Kokabangali says, are these people bringing this type of chemicals in the country? Are they Sierra-Leoneans? If they're not, are they legal immigrants? Because it's about time we start a proper immigration system in the country. We need to know who is coming in or out. We all remember the cocaine plane. The pilot was not arrested. They just vanished in thin air. We don't know who was responsible for that, whether they were Sierra-Leoneans. Kemosi say, who is the minister at that time, they didn't give us any reasonable explanation about the plane.
My final pick is from Mohammed Conte. He says, this is a great news for our country's security services. Now we can say that if our security officials want to stop drug smuggling in our country, they can stop it. Why is our security agencies not doing the same to stop drugs coming in the country that is destroying our youth in the country?
I think final for mine is from Mohammed Suleiman Koroma. He says, I think if there is no intelligence, we will not have caught these ammunition and drugs. So, Mr. Minister, can you explain to us about the security system of our ports? I mean, Water Key and the airports, because these are the main source of importation. This would have been seen first by the Queen Elizabeth ports or the national airport. Siba, that happens to be my last
And
message.
so sorry, Hussein is asking you, Mr. Minister, can we have a number where people can give information?
Sure.
Thank you very much. So there was a question about whether we are going to follow the full force of the law and that people will be held to account. I can assure the citizens of this country that President Bio is fully committed. His instructions are clear and unequivocal. The second point is about how our security apparatus function. I can also assure people that they are competent. And again, as I've mentioned here, without that competence, we'll not be able to be where we are today. We could be talking about a bomb explosion somewhere, or Sierra Leone is known now as a hub for transporting or importing these kinds of things. So this is important. In terms of numbers, all of the Sierra Leone police numbers, the hotlines within the Sierra Leone police, these numbers function, or go to your local police station just next to wherever you live. There are police stations everywhere. you send in these reports. When we put out our press releases, I think we've mentioned the other hotlines that the Sierra Leone Police has. For the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, we also have our 818 number that you can use to send us toll-free text, and these kinds of information will pass on to the intelligence officials. But the citizens can be rest assured. The important thing here is you can go to bed at night, you can sleep, you can know that this country is safe. Your commander-in-chief is doing his work. He has competent people that are working for him, and these people are good at their work.
Thank you very much, Chernor, Minister of Information and Civic Education. Thanks for your time this morning to join us in this conversation.